At 7:30 on September 19, 1944, Staff Sergeant Lafayette P. stood beside his Sherman tank in a staging zone near Aachen, Germany, watching his crew get ready for what would ultimately be his last operation. The morning was cold, carrying the scent of diesel and damp soil. All around him, dozens of Sherman tanks waited in neat rows, their crews performing final checks before combat. One after another, engines rumbled to life, filling the air with a roar of machinery. The earth shook beneath the weight of 33-ton armored vehicles gearing up for the fight ahead. Poole, only 25 years old, had already spent 81 days in active combat and had destroyed 12 enemy tanks. The German forces had reinforced the Siegfried Line with Panthers, Tigers, and concealed anti-tank positions. Poole's unit was set to drive directly into those defenses. Intelligence suggested that at least 2 companies of Panther tanks were positioned to guard the routes leading to Münsterbusch. For the past 3 months, Poole had been commanding Sherman tanks, and he knew every detail of the machine he led. The medium tank weighed 33 tons when fully equipped and operated with a 5-man crew. It was driven by a Continental R975 radial engine that generated 350 horsepower. This particular version, the M4A1 fitted with the 76mm gun, could reach speeds of up to 30 miles per hour on paved roads and around 20 miles per hour when moving cross-country. But the Sherman carried a critical flaw, one that cost American tank crews their lives on a daily basis. It was unable to pierce the frontal armor of a Panther or a Tiger. The Panther weighed 45 tons and was armed with a high-velocity 75mm cannon capable of punching through a Sherman's armor from a distance of 2,000 yards. Its front armor was 80mm thick and sloped at 55 degrees. For a Sherman's 76mm gun to penetrate the Panther's side armor, it had to get within roughly 300 yards. The Tiger presented an even more severe threat. Weighing 56 tons and equipped with an 88mm gun, its frontal armor reached up to 120mm in thickness. A Tiger could eliminate a Sherman from as far as 2,500 yards away, while the Sherman had no realistic chance of breaching the Tiger's front armor at any effective battlefield distance. American doctrine instructed Sherman crews to avoid confronting German heavy tanks from the front. They were told to rely on speed, numerical advantage, flanking maneuvers, and striking the enemy from the sides or rear. The 3rd Armored Division had already suffered severe tank losses in Normandy, with most Shermans being destroyed by German armor that could hit them from far beyond their own effective range. Poole had witnessed tank commanders die while following these standard procedures. The doctrine assumed that Sherman units would always have room to maneuver, adequate time to flank, and dependable artillery support. But in actual combat, everything happened more quickly, at closer distances, and with far more confusion. German tank crews took advantage of every moment of uncertainty. Poole created his own method. He trained his crew relentlessly. Driver exercises, gunner practices, loader repetitions, he drilled them in every task. He measured everything: how quickly his driver could make a 90-degree turn at full speed, how rapidly his gunner could lock onto a target and fire, how fast his loader could insert a new round after the last shot. He pushed his crew until every movement became pure instinct. His driver was Corporal Wilbert Richards, a 24-year-old from Cumberland, Maryland. Poole nicknamed him Baby, although most of the men called him Red because of his bright red hair. Richards stood 5 feet 4 inches tall and had grown up repairing farm machinery. He could sense when the transmission was close to slipping or when the tank's tracks were starting to wear unevenly. He always drove with his hatch open. His bow gunner was Private First Class Bert Close, a 17-year-old from Portland, Oregon. Poole referred to him as Schoolboy. Close wore thin wire-rimmed glasses and had lied about his age to join the Army. He handled the .30 caliber bow machine gun with precision and never lost his composure during combat. His gunner was Corporal Willis O.L., 29 years old, from Morrisonville, Illinois. Poole called him Groundhog, a name inspired by the permanent indentations around his eyes from the gunsight cushion. O.L. had been a machinist before the war and possessed a natural talent for spotting and engaging targets, something Poole had never witnessed in any other gunner. His loader was technician 5th grade Delbert Boggs, a 22-year-old from Lancaster, Ohio. Poole jokingly called him Jailbird. Boggs had been given an ultimatum by a local judge back home. Boggs had faced the choice between joining the Army or serving prison time for a manslaughter charge. He opted for the Army. Boggs could load a 76mm round in just 4 seconds. Poole's unit belonged to Company 1, 32nd Armored Regiment, 3rd Armored Division. The division had departed for Europe on September 5, 1943. They arrived in England on September 15 and spent 9 months training near Liverpool before entering combat on June 29, 1944, at Villers-Fozard in Normandy. On that very day, Poole's first Sherman tank was destroyed by a Panzerfaust. His crew survived and received a replacement Sherman, which they named in the mood after the famous Glenn Miller song. This second tank met its end on August 17, destroyed by friendly fire when an American P-38 Lightning mistook it for German armor. Once again, the crew survived and were issued a third Sherman, which they also named in the mood. From June 29 to September 19, Poole's crew had earned a reputation as the most effective tank hunters in the European theater. Their extraordinary success came from aggressive tactics that deliberately broke from conventional doctrine. When a target appeared, OL would fire immediately without waiting to reach the ideal range. As the enemy reacted, Richards would drive directly toward them, closing distance and adjusting angles. The crew continued firing while maneuvering until the target was completely destroyed. On June 30, 1944, Poole's crew encountered their first Panther near Villers-Facade. The German tank was partially concealed behind a hedge about 800 yards away. Most commanders would have called for artillery support, but Poole did not hesitate. He ordered OL to fire. The first shot fell short. The Panther's turret rotated toward them. Poole instructed Richards to advance straight at the threat rather than retreat. At 600 yards, OL fired again, but the round bounced harmlessly off the Panther's frontal armor. The Panther returned fire, missing by 3 feet. Richards pressed forward without pause. At 400 yards, the Panther fired another shot, hitting Poole's Sherman but failing to penetrate. Approaching 300 yards, Richards executed a controlled slide with the tank, positioning the gun toward the Panther's vulnerable side. OL fired the instant the gun aligned perfectly. The 76mm round tore through the Panther's side armor. The turret of the Panther lifted violently from internal pressure as its ammunition detonated within. Immediately, Poole's crew confronted 2 Panzer IVs attempting to flank them. OL destroyed both tanks in under 2 minutes. 3 kills in just 4 minutes, employing tactics that conventional doctrine deemed suicidal. Poole's methods quickly spread throughout the regiment. His aggressive style, close-quarters engagements, constant movement, and instantaneous firing without waiting for perfect alignment became standard practice. These approaches kept crews alive even against superior German armor. By August, dozens of tank crews in the 3rd Armored Division had adopted similar tactics. The Germans began noticing the shift after action reports from panzer units indicated that American Sherman crews were fighting more aggressively, closing distances despite taking fire, and forcing battles at ranges where German armor's advantages were minimized. Tactics that had been effective for months were suddenly failing. Shermans that should have withdrawn were advancing boldly under fire. Poole's combat achievements continued to grow steadily. On July 21, near St. Lo, he destroyed 3 German tanks along with 15 half-tracks in a single engagement. On August 2, near Mortain, his crew eliminated 2 Panthers that had ambushed his column. Then, on August 29, Poole led an assault that dismantled multiple German positions, earning him the Distinguished Service Cross. By early September, Poole had destroyed 12 tanks and 246 other armored vehicles. His crew had killed an estimated 1,000 German soldiers and taken 250 prisoners. They had participated in 21 major offensive operations without losing a single crew member. Poole's battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Walter Richardson, a fellow Texan who had known Poole since their training at Camp Polk, Louisiana, recognized Poole's exceptional skill. Richardson frequently assigned him to lead columns despite Poole holding the rank of sergeant rather than officer. Poole had consistently refused promotions to maintain direct command over his tank. On September 17, orders arrived for Poole and his crew to rotate back to the United States for a war bond tour. After 81 consecutive days of combat, they were to return home to help raise funds for the war effort. The tour was scheduled to begin in early October, but one final mission remained. On September 19, Poole's unit was tasked with breaching the Siegfried Line near Münsterbusch, Germany. Richardson explicitly instructed Poole not to take the point position that day, aiming to ensure his crew's survival for their final mission. Poole acknowledged the order. His tank would serve as a flank guard rather than spearhead. The attack commenced at 7:30 hours. The advance proceeded smoothly for the first 20 minutes, then everything went wrong. Poole's usual loader, Delbert Delboggs, had been sent to the rear for a medical evaluation in preparation for the rotation home. His replacement was Private First Class Paul Kenneth King, a 20-year-old from Anderson County, Tennessee. King was inexperienced and had never trained with Poole's crew. Paul spotted a concealed anti-tank position near a damaged building. He recognized it as an 88mm gun, one of the most lethal weapons in the German arsenal. He immediately called out the location of the target. Ola confirmed he was ready to fire. Poole gave the command to engage. King attempted to chamber a round but mishandled it, causing the shell to jam in the breech. Ola was unable to fire. Poole saw the German gun crew elevating their weapon. He yelled at Richards to reverse. The Sherman began moving backward. It was too late. The 88 fired. The shell struck the Sherman's turret at approximately 300 yards. The armor-piercing round penetrated, passing between Poole and Ola before detonating inside. The explosion threw Poole out of the commander's hatch. He landed 15 feet from the tank, his right leg nearly severed by flying shrapnel. Desperate, he reached into his first aid pouch, pulled out a morphine syringe, and administered it to himself. The pain was excruciating. He attempted to cut away the destroyed portion of his leg using his pocket knife. Medics arrived within minutes, preventing him from finishing the amputation, applying tourniquets, and administering additional morphine to manage the severe pain. The crew managed to pull Richards and close out of the burning Sherman. Both men survived with only minor injuries. Ola, however, was critically wounded, suffering shrapnel wounds to his left leg. King was killed instantly. Poole was rushed to a field hospital, where doctors amputated his right leg 8 inches above the knee. Ola remained hospitalized for 14 months, underwent 6 surgeries, and was finally discharged on February 15, 1946, requiring a permanent leg brace. Richards and Close continued serving with the 3rd Armored Division and survived the remainder of the war. Lafayette Greenpool was born on July 23, 1919, in Odom, Texas. He had a twin brother, John Thomas, who served in the Navy during the war. Poole graduated from high school in Taft, Texas, in 1938 and then attended Texas College of Arts and Industries for 1 year, focusing on engineering studies. Before the war, Poole was a talented amateur boxer. He won the sectional 165-pound championship in New Orleans and competed in several Golden Gloves tournaments. While training in England, he participated in an exhibition bout against heavyweight champion Joe Louis. During his time in the Army, Poole won every one of the 41 matches he fought. He enlisted on June 14, 1941, and trained with the 3rd Armored Division at Camp Polk, Louisiana. In September 1943, he was deployed to England. His combat career spanned precisely 81 days, from June 29 to September 19, 1944. Poole was awarded numerous honors, including the Distinguished Service Cross, the Legion of Merit, the Silver Star, the Purple Heart, the Belgian Führer, and the French Legion of Honor. He was nominated twice for the Medal of Honor. The paperwork for the first nomination was reportedly lost, while the second nomination was denied because authorities determined his accomplishments were the result of a coordinated crew effort rather than individual heroism. Following the war, Poole was discharged in June 1946. He returned to Texas and opened a filling station in Clinton. He faced challenges adjusting to civilian life. In July 1948, he was permitted to re-enlist as one of 7 amputees recalled for their specialized technical expertise. He served as an automotive instructor with the 3rd Armored Division at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Poole retired on September 19, 1960, exactly 16 years after sustaining his wartime injury, holding the rank of Chief Warrant Officer II, at Fort Sam Houston, Texas. He passed away peacefully in his sleep on May 30, 1991, at the age of 70. He was laid to rest in Texas. In 1993, 2 years following his death, the Armored Forces School at Fort Knox dedicated a tank driver training simulator hall in Poole's honor. The commemorative plaque read, Staff Sergeant Lafayette G. Poole, American Tank Ace. 258 enemy vehicles destroyed. 81 days in combat. The facility was later relocated when the Armor School moved to Fort Benning, now Fort Moore, Georgia, in 2010. Poole's legacy goes far beyond his combat achievements. The aggressive tactics he developed through direct battlefield experience, rather than formal doctrine, significantly influenced the way American tank crews operated. His courage to engage superior enemy armor and take the fight directly to the opposition. If you want, I can continue this and rephrase the rest of the remaining sentence and any unfinished parts. Instead of withdrawing, he chose to engage, maintaining relentless fire and constant movement. These approaches directly saved countless American lives. Those who served with him remembered him in their own ways. Richards remarked that Poole consistently prioritized the safety and effectiveness of the crew, drilling them rigorously while ensuring they were equipped with the best tools and supplies available. Close remembered that, despite being only 17, Poole treated him with respect, never speaking down to him, and valuing his contributions. Ola credited Poole with keeping the entire crew alive during 3 months of intense, punishing combat. Boggs, who was absent for the final engagement, spent many years contemplating whether his presence might have altered the battle's outcome. Military historians have recognized that Poole holds the record for the most tank kills by any American in World War II, achieving this in under 3 months of active combat. His 12 confirmed tank kills and a total of 258 destroyed vehicles remain unsurpassed. Remarkably, he achieved all of this while operating standard Sherman tanks, which were mechanically inferior to the German armor they faced. What set Lafayette Poole apart was not superhuman strength or extraordinary equipment. He simply refused to accept the idea that American tank crews had to perish merely because German tanks were superior. He devised tactics that exploited the Sherman's advantages, its speed and agility, while minimizing its vulnerabilities. He drilled his crew to operate as a single, cohesive unit, with every member fully aware of the actions of the others. Poole never documented his experiences, and after returning home, he spoke little about the war. When questioned about his achievements, he gave credit entirely to his crew. When asked about his injuries, he would deflect and change the subject. He was a soldier who found his purpose in battle and struggled to find meaning in peacetime. During the war, the Sherman tank itself continued to evolve. Later versions were equipped with stronger armor and more powerful guns. The M26 Pershing heavy tank arrived in early 1945, featuring a 90mm gun capable of confronting German armor effectively. However, in the summer of 1944, American tank crews had to make do with the equipment at hand. Men like Poole discovered ways to achieve victory despite the odds. Combat creates its own set of rules. Statistics suggested that a Sherman tank could not defeat a Panther in a frontal fight. Poole disproved that assertion 12 times. Military doctrine advised against engaging German heavy tanks in close combat. Poole ignored this advice and attacked them directly, surviving where others who followed the rules perished. War rewards boldness and punishes hesitation. Poole understood this instinctively. His story illustrates that innovation arises in battle not from committees or studies, but from individuals confronting problems head-on and devising practical solutions. Poole's tactics were neither sanctioned by high command nor taught in training schools. They originated from necessity, spread through demonstration, and saved lives through their effective use. Today, Poole's name is preserved in military histories and studies of armored warfare. The 3rd Armored Division Association maintains detailed records of his accomplishments. Veterans who served alongside him recount stories at reunions, though these recollections capture only fragments of his character. Lafayette Poole, a young Texan, became America's most effective tank killer in World War II. Over 81 days of combat, he destroyed 258 enemy vehicles and lost his leg, ensuring that his crew survived their final engagement. He spent the remainder of his life living quietly, working with machines, seldom speaking of his wartime experiences. This is the reality of true heroes, not the larger-than-life figures of Hollywood, but ordinary people who perform extraordinary deeds when circumstances demand it. Poole did not fight for glory or medals, he fought to ensure the survival of his crew and the completion of the mission. Everything else was secondary. If you found this story as captivating as we did, please take a moment to like this video. Your support helps us share more forgotten stories from World War II. Subscribe to stay connected with these untold histories. Every story matters. Every story deserves to be remembered. We would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below telling us where you are watching from. Our community stretches from Texas to Taiwan. From veterans to history enthusiasts, you are part of something extraordinary here. Thank you for watching, and thank you for keeping these stories alive.